Hello and welcome back to the Holistic Hatha Yoga podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey, and I am here to talk all things yoga. Welcome to this week. This week's a little different. We've got a interview again. And this interview is with Lara J. Day. And she is a intuitive worker and energy worker. She does Tai Chi and a blend of that with some intuitive coaching, and she's just a delightful human all around. I really loved our discussion. And in our interview here, we talk a lot about her 13 sacred nights ritual, I guess is what we can call it. And it is something that she does every year in a certain point of the year, and has this whole little ritual around it and does it with her family and things. And it was just such a beautiful sharing. So beautiful for people to share how they personally get in touch with their spirit or with universal God, whatever you want to call it. And so, tune in and listen to Lara and I talk about the different ways that you can practically bring spirituality into your everyday life. All right, friends, enjoy. Welcome to the Holistic Hatha Yoga podcast. And today we have Lara Day. And just tell us a little bit about what you do. I am so excited to hear about it all. Like, really. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really have two sort of separate offerings at the moment, and at the same time, they are also connected. But I have an oracle deck that I created that teaches a winter solstice practice that is all about aligning with the quiet and the darkness and the stillness when we are typically out in the northern hemisphere, at least, shopping compulsively, overindulging in sugar and alcohol, jam-packing our December calendars, flooding our lawns with LED light displays, just the polar opposite of what nature is doing. And so that's a whole teaching and part of my work. And then I also am a neurogenic Qigong practitioner. And that is my own particular mashup of two standalone modalities, one being traditional Qigong healing or medical Qigong, and the other being neurogenic tremor and tension and trauma releasing tremor work. So I've mashed those two things up and created my own modality. And that's the short version of my two offerings.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with the oracle deck, you said it's like 13 days, 12 days, 13?
It's a 13-day
Is there any certain dates it's supposed to be on or whatever?
Yeah, I can give you just a quick nuts and bolts rundown of how the practice actually works, which your listeners might appreciate. But essentially, it's this 13-day window, and the practice officially begins on the winter solstice. So the longest, darkest night of the year, which in the northern hemisphere is December 21st, and the southern hemisphere it's June 21st. And we essentially have an initial 3 days to prepare. So the word solstice actually means sun stands still or sun standing still. So we have sol and then sistere, sun standing still. And so after that peak of darkness on the winter solstice itself, December 21st, there are 3 days where the sun appears to stand still on the horizon. It looks like it's not moving much. And then after that third day, it slowly begins to shift its position again on the horizon, and we incrementally get more and more light from that point forward. So the light is being reborn, right? And as above, so below, as without, so within. The light or the inspiration is also being reborn within our human psyche and soul. So we have this opportunity to, I say, plant our dream seeds in the womb of winter or in the fertile soil of the darkness so that they'll sprout in the spring, pushing through the topsoil of the void into the realm of the manifest. In the summertime, we're fully expanded. We're in full bloom. We are living the dream that we planted back in the darkness of the winter solstice season. And then in the fall, we're harvesting the fruits of our labor, thinking about what we want to throw on the compost pile, what we want to keep for the coming cycle. It's a time where we start to get a little bit more reflective. We start to draw inward before diving back in for another cycle of seasons. So the practice is really about beginning to align with and tune into these seasonal energies and this rhythm, this yearly rhythm. So again, to go back after to the structure of it, after those 3 days where we are in preparation mode, we're thinking about what we want to bring into the new cycle. We are maybe gathering whatever supplies or tools we might need if we want to meditate more. Maybe we need a new meditation cushion or a new yoga mat, or maybe we want to do more cooking and we need to buy some supplies or some ingredients or gather some recipes. Or maybe we want to have a certain person in our life for the coming cycle, so we would make sure we have, maybe a date scheduled during that 13-day window, or at least their contact information so we can reach out to them in some way, shape, or form. So then you have these 12 days and nights that represent the 12 calendar months. And then the first day of the practice is a reflection of the entire cycle to come. So 13 days in total. And during that 13-day window, you are doing two things. You're receiving clues, hints, downloads from God, source, spirit, the field, however you name the mystery, right? That's something greater. And that simply looks like being extra present in your life and really mindful, and then journaling everything that happens. And then you're also drawing oracle cards from the oracle deck. So for each of the 12 calendar months and for the greater year, you have these themes or guides that, as you move through your year, you're checking in with your journal, and it is over and over and over again, just goosebump inducing, laugh out loud, the way that these cards and the themes and the random bits of information that you wrote down that felt unimportant at the time or insignificant, the way they line up with your life just really serves to remind you consistently that there is a magic and mystery that is unfolding with us here, that it's real, that we are not in meaningless chaos, that there's something bigger going on. It is so profound, and really year after year continues to build your faith in the unseen realm of energy, spirit, God. So that's a little bit about the way the practice works. The second piece. So again, you're gathering all that information, and then the second piece is that you're doing the things that you want for the coming cycle. So it's co-creation. So you have this opportunity to offer up your desires into this stream of energy that I swear is moving through like a riptide, and it just gets swept right into your future. And so again, like I already mentioned, if you're wanting to cook more, or garden more, or cycle more, whatever it is, you make sure you do those things during that window of time.
Right. That's amazing. That sounds absolutely beautiful. I love the just aligning your life cyclically, seasonally, because there has been such a runaway from that, it's just kind of like the modern day world is just like, no, just go, go, go every single day, all year round, no matter what. And as we've all experienced, it's not sustainable. And so everyone's like, whoa, what? How do you do it? How do you do it? And it's like, it's one of those things that's kind of hiding in plain sight. Like, we just need to mimic nature. Like, in the winter, go within those depths. And then I love that this practice is happening like towards the end of December, early January, when we're told to be making those big moves and those big like intentions and all these things. And it's like, no, right now we're bringing it in, and we're figuring out what it is that we want to bring forth in the spring, when Aries season comes and the fire comes back and it's time to start new things, If you look outside, especially in northern Michigan in the dead of winter, nothing is starting then. Everything is slumbering.
It's the time to dream, right? We're dreaming forward our future. We're remembering our future. We're dreaming it. We're, wrapped in this cloak of darkness. And I also like to think of the metaphor of a match. If you lit a match in broad daylight, it's kind of underwhelming, right? But when you light a match in the darkness, it's really clear where the light is. And so it's this opportunity. We're wrapped in that darkness. It's the most powerful time to be diving inward in order to discover that inner light, that inner inspiration, that inner God spark, you
Right.
know. So it really truly is a legitimately magical, potent, and powerful time. There's a reason that the winter solstice has been honored and witnessed and celebrated, you know, as far back as we can peer into human history. We have the ruins of, places like Stonehenge and Newgrange and Nabta Playa and Chaco Canyon. I mean, they're just on every single
Mhm.
continent. There are ruins that were clearly originally built with so much care and precision in order to capture the first light of the winter solstice, and likewise the summer solstice and the equinoxes. But these cultures were very tuned into and a part of and lived, you know, in rhythm with these seasonal energies, and, you know, aware of their place in the cosmos and in the position of the stars and the sun and the moon and all of that. So it's incredibly powerful and empowering. And you know, as you mentioned, we're so cut off from it all, right? We live in our cardboard boxes that are 70 degrees year round, and our feet never touch the ground. We've got rubber soled shoes, and our eyes are staring into the false light of our screens all day long, and we're terrified of the sun. You know, we're slathering chemical sunscreens on, you know, and avoiding the true light of the sun and the moon and the
Right.
stars. And it's not rocket science. It's not. It doesn't have to be hard. It's like these very simple things make such a massive difference in the way that, you know, you experience life, your body, your energy.
Right. I
It's
feel like it's like
yeah.
a coming back to humanity. You know, I feel like people almost kind of stepped humanity away from the earth and nature and animals, and it was almost like, oh, but we're better than you and we know better and we can figure things out and we
Right.
can tinker and we can whatever, and it's like we don't need to live by your rules, and it's like, but really we do. We do need to live by the rules of the earth, you know, in order for us to actually be like at peace, at ease, and in flow, like you were saying. Like, I think that's so beautiful that then people are like checking in throughout the year every month, because that is also so powerful to just be able to like realign, you know, because everybody, it's life. We get pulled in a million different directions all the time. That's literally every business's job, is to take your attention, you know? So the second we step out the door, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like to remember what it was you wanted to do this year, or what you wanted to bring about, what you wanted to work on, what you wanted to embody. Um, that's a beautiful thing to get people to just come back to every month, you know?
Yeah. I- And I think that segues into another topic, which is the power of ritual, right? These moments where we do pause and intentionally sit in the stillness and reestablish our connection with that something greater, and, you know, rediscover the sacred. And a part of what I've really been bringing forward in all of these conversations recently is the idea that ritual, as I see it, is incredibly powerful for two reasons. One, that if you believe that human consciousness is co-creative, as I do, I believe that our
Mm.
thoughts, right, are to, I don't know what the formula is as far as, you know, God source does this part and we do this part. You know, it's, I'm still working on like experiencing it, and you know, I don't know that you can ever figure it out, but anyhow, um, if you believe that our human consciousness is in some way, shape, or form divinely co-creative, that we are creating with our thoughts this three-dimensional playing field, when a whole society pauses simultaneously and they all engage in similar behaviors and we all focus our attention on similar themes and in similar ways, that is incredibly powerful. To have all of us engaged in a similar activities, similar behaviors, similar thoughts, right? So that in and of itself is just wildly
Wildly powerful,
powerful.
especially like when, like you said, when you throw multiple people all doing it, it's like
it's almost like a vortex, of just like that energy, just
Yes.
like, and it's wild, and that is
Yes.
why people have done things in ritual with multiple people and like in these groups, and that's why there's been
Yeah.
covens and things, because yes, we are wildly powerful in our own right, in our own sovereign being as co-creators, but it is wild what can happen when everyone comes together, and I think that's the powerful thing about like group prayer and things, like it's
Oh,
it's
100%.
magical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, and and I always say like 1 plus 1 is not 2. When we come together in numbers, it's really exponential the way that the energy is
Right.
amplified. But so that's the first thing about ritual, and then the second thing is that this is how we are teaching the younger generations what it is that we as a society believe is most important. You know, like we're going to pull you out of school. You've got school off, so it must be pretty important. And hold up, mom and dad have work off. So this is starting to seem even more important. And now everybody that you know is doing pretty much the same thing. This must be what is most important about being human. We're teaching our children what we hold sacred as a society. And so what are we teaching our children right now with the revolving door of shopping, sugar, and alcohol that our commercial holidays have become? We're teaching them that materialism, commercialism, these are the things that are most sacred in this society. So my hope is that by talking about this more, and I went way deep into the history of all of our holidays in the last couple of years, and kind of looked at where they came from, and it's not what most of us assume or think. And we have this opportunity, I believe, to pause and individually and collectively really think about, well, how do we want to celebrate these sacred turning points in the year? And what is it that is most important to me and my family and my loved ones? And if you have traditions that nourish you in some way, shape, or form, by all means, keep them. This isn't about throw the baby out with the bathwater. But if there are things that don't nourish you, and that maybe you feel depleted, or you feel like it's an obligation and not something that you actually want to do, I want to give everyone permission to let all of that go, and to reimagine, either again individually within your own family, and on a larger level, what it is that is sacred to us, how we want to celebrate these moments, how we can bring some deeper meaning back to the holidays. I like to say it's time to return the holy to our holidays, and
Yeah.
yeah, and the soul to our solstice. So that's
No, that's amazing, because like you just said, like I've said before, like that there's just a spiritual drought overall, in at least in the US environment that I have witnessed, and it might be at the same other places, um yeah, just a complete spiritual drought and disconnection from the self, to where people are
yeah.
just like up and down and up and down, riding these waves of the media or the latest headline or the latest conflict or whatever, the latest clickbait, basically, and it's really easy to keep them in these heightened states of just like, and then people are much easier to be mean, vicious, cruel, whatever, because they're not connected and they see it happening around them. So they're like, well, that's how everyone else must be, so that's what I'm going to do too. And then you have just total disconnection going on a societal level, which is dangerous. And then, so it's like, I feel like that was almost a setup of like consumerism, to like really make you search for that good feeling and that connectedness through a
Oh
purchase
yeah.
and such.
Oh, I don't think it's any secret that, our screens, our devices, our phones are all vying for our
Right.
attention. That is the most valuable commodity at the moment, is human
Right.
attention, right? And that they've really been weaponized against us.
Yeah.
So, and it's a matter of us all, which I would say that we're largely losing the battle right now, but using technology rather than allowing technology to use us, and remembering our human divinity, and not allowing these devices to control our attention, to control our consciousness, to yank us around, and really dictate our thoughts, emotions, and ultimately actions and
Right,
behaviors.
100%. Yeah, and I think part of that is just, finding those rituals that you can do that ground and center you and bring you back to your own personal reality, not the world at large where it's like, oh, everything's on fire. But it's like, come back to your present space and, you know, make your own house tidy. You know what I mean? And like that helps the world in a
Yes.
lot of
Yeah.
ways.
I mean, I think it's so easy to just, stay here and basically in a state of terror, right?
Oh my
When we're tuning into what our
God.
screens are telling us. But if you walk out your front door, 99 times out of 100, there's beautiful people all around you. There's, even just a smile or connecting with somebody's gaze as strangers as you walk by. There's so much beauty and good out in the world, and we get so sucked into the drama that, again, is very intentionally, I believe, created in order to capture our
Right.
attention.
And it,
So, and practices like the 13 Sacred Nights. What I love about this practice, and so many people have commented over the years, because I self-published, oh gosh, I think 6 or 7 years ago now, and then got picked up by publishers a year and a half or 2 years ago. And so I've been sharing this practice out in the world for a minute, and so many people are so sick of the commercialism, right? And really grateful for the opportunity to unplug. And it's as if, especially during the solstice season, like I talked about, this time really is special. It really is potent. It really is powerful. There is an actual window here. It's not just like a make believe
it's
thing.
actually
It is a
a very
legitimate.
special vortex. And you can feel it.
It's a portal.
Time
It is
is not the
absolutely,
same during
and
those days. It,
it's really not. And so people know intuitively, like, I want to be doing something to mark this special time. I want to be stepping off the treadmill and having some kind of sacredness in my life, but we're not quite sure how. And maybe for a lot of people, they've been disillusioned by perhaps religion that was weaponized against them in their childhood, or just didn't feel quite right, or doesn't feel like a fit anymore. And yet, what do I replace it with? And so this practice is inspired by ancient wisdom from these cultures that were so much more in tune with nature, but it's really a modern take on. And so it fits quite nicely into our modern lives and modern calendars. And it's just enough structure so that you have something to grasp onto, and to help you, put one foot in front of the other and walk through a ritual. But it's also spacious enough that every individual and family can make it their own. And, if you want to spend those 13 days, again, meditating or just exercising more, or reaching out to certain people, or having more time with your friends and family, or maybe if you are a religious person, maybe it's dropping more deeply into prayer or your relationship with whoever that something greater is for you. It's non-denominational, so again, it's inspired by these ancient cultures that were more in tune with nature, but also kind of a modern container that's really accessible to anyone
that's
and everyone.
amazing. That is amazing. I feel like the most grounded people that I know have a very similar kind of open-mindedness of like you know, let's take the good, let's leave the fear mongering in the past, and let's just all be
Right.
open to this, to the knowing that we all are part of this God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, and just honor that, within ourselves, within others, and I feel like a lot of people have lost that because they've turned away from the churches who have, gatherings every Sunday, which that's great, but for someone like me, I'm not necessarily like welcomed into those communities because I also don't really believe every single thing that they're stating either. So there is like a disconnect. And so even myself,
Yeah.
especially in northern Michigan, I've been like, it's a consistent theme that keeps coming up where I'm like, where's just the non-denominational church that we can all just go to, and everyone can just be nice and do some prayer in person and maybe meditate and chant and sing a song, sing like the Beatles or something.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
non-offensive.
Connect with each other, right? I do think the community that churches offer is so beautiful, and it's so important for us to be just with each other in the flesh, not via social media or our emails or texting or it's so important for us to get together in person.
Yeah, because that's, again, like you said, like there's so much power in that, and I think that's most of the thing, is that we can all like gain that power together in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that slowing down. I mean, I have 4 kids, and so like Christmas gets wild, and it's been a lot over the years, but the last probably 4 years or so I have pared down a lot, and or made family members pare down a lot, being like, you cannot get them this amount of things, like we don't have the space, I don't know what to tell you, just all the things, and so, and I do think that some people are starting to, make those turns, and come back to the center. But I will find myself even getting frustrated with my kids because they've got toys everywhere or whatever. But then I had the realization not that long ago where I was like, when I think about me putting away my toys as a child, I had one toy box in my room, and it was like, put all your toys away, and all my toys could fit in that one toy box, everything. They have a Lego bin that I wouldn't be able to fit all their Legos in the one toy box I had, let alone the costumes and the board games and the action figures and the whatever, Hot Wheels tracks.
Yeah. It's just our consumerism has clearly spiraled out of
Yeah, and we
control.
need to come back to that center point of like what is important.
And Christmas seems to be like the apex
Oh,
of that,
yeah.
right? It's
Oh, yeah.
just, yeah.
It's just like, whoa, let's slow down, and I think permission to just take it easy. And, we have a lot of we do a lot of baking and things, and just relaxing at home a lot, because it is such a busy time, and you don't need to do all of the things.
You don't. And, I will say again, if there are traditions that do feel good, keep those. My daughter loves the Christmas tree. We have a giant baby blue fake Christmas tree that we get out every year. She picked it when she was like a little girl, and she loves it. And I mean, she's 17 now, but we have this beautiful ornament collection, and a lot of the ornaments are passed down from my grandmother, and she's so precise about where each ornament goes, and so we're still engaged in a fair amount of the holiday activities, but it's as if all of the traditional holiday stuff over the years for us sort of slowly faded into the background. And now as the weather turns and we begin to remember that the winter season is coming, we both look forward to the opportunity to reset and to dream up our new year and to take stock of the last year and to go, we love to go to the bookstore, and they have this wall of beautiful journals, and we get to pick out our beautiful Sacred Nights journal every year. And, I learned this practice the year that she was born. So she's never been through a winter season without the Sacred Nights. And, when she was younger, you've got 4 kids, it's not like she did the whole practice. She would just have fun drawing some of the oracle cards and like, oh, you got rabbit, and then I'm not obviously going to read the whole reading to her when she's 3 years old, but I might pull up something like, oh, rabbits are about being creative, and like, what do you want to do that's creative? Are you inspired to do anything creative right now? And then, and so you can just, you can tailor it to the age of your children or the needs of your family or whatever it is, and then slowly, as she got older and became a tween and a teen, she started journaling a little bit more, and now she does the full practice, of course. But So kids love it too. They love the magic of drawing a card. It's like a card game to them. It's really fun, and the images are beautiful. And and then it's a way to begin to be in dialogue with your children about some deeper themes instead of just like, oh, we got a new toy for Christmas.
Right.
Is and what I also love about it is that they also then get to begin from a very young age experiencing the magic for themselves and understanding what synchronicity is and understanding that they are a participant in the unfolding of this magical life. And so it's not like, for instance, the tradition of Santa Claus, where we tell them this story and then, when they're 5 or 6 or 7 years old, we yank it away from them and tell them, no, just kidding. It was all pretend. It's not real. I wrote a whole article on that you can find on my website that was triggering to a lot of folks. But if you understand where Santa Claus actually even came from, which is not what most of us think, he was literally created in the 1800s by a handful of New York intellectual elites in order to replace the current Christmas traditions. And Christmas back in the early days of the colonies actually looks nothing like what we celebrate as Christmas today. It was actually outlawed in 1659 through 1681 in Massachusetts. So that gives you a little hint that it wasn't what it is today. And it actually looked a lot more like Saturnalia, which was the ancient midwinter festival in Rome, which was very carnival-esque. It was a complete upheaval of society, this upside down time where slaves were served by slave owners and children ruled the household and a fool was crowned king, and there was cross-dressing and there was promiscuity and gambling and debauchery and gorging themselves on, sweets and sugar. And it was this sort of society-wide release valve. And it was their midwinter festival. And those kinds of activities and behaviors were what was happening in the colonies in the early days. So there were loud parades in the streets in the middle of the night, and there was wassailing and mumming, which is where they would go house to house singing and putting on plays. The working classes would go to wealthy manors and expect to be given money or alcohol or food in return. And what happened was that, one, there was a clashing with the Puritans. And then there was also simultaneously the elites were pulling away from those traditions and saying, no, we don't want to participate anymore. Whereas in ancient Rome, the whole society participated willingly. And so you can imagine, a rowdy band of drunken youths showing up to wassail, here we go, a wassailing, right? And at a wealthy manor. And, think about some of our Christmas carols, oh, give us some figgy pudding, like we won't go until we get some, right? Those all come from ancient traditions. And so as the wealthy people started closing their doors and saying, no, we're not going to give you the cider in the cellar, it erupted into violence and vandalism and this clashing of the the upper class and the lower class, clashing of the classes. And so again, this group of elites, essentially, I'm going to use the word rebranded. They literally dreamt up a more domesticated, more sanitized, more family-friendly holiday tradition. And they said the house of ale will not be vanquished by the house of God. So we're going to create a new deity, and we're going to call him Santa Claus. And they literally rebranded the holiday in order to separate the classes, to keep the traditions within the walls of the parlor. The gift exchange would now be between the adults and the children, not the lower classes and the upper classes. And it was a very, very intentional recreation, of this time, this Christmas time. And so anyhow, the point, that was a very long explanation for, if you understand where Santa Claus came from, and that he was literally dreamt up in order to quiet down and simmer down the masses, then you might be a little less knee-jerk defensive of him and take a moment to pause and think about if that tradition is actually really serving your family and your children. And that's something for everyone to think about on their own. I'm not saying, it's one way or the other, but at least give it some conscious thought instead of just sleepwalking through these traditions that have largely been spoon-fed to
Right,
us.
right. And I've been pretty open with that with my kids. Like we do like the Santa thing and stuff, obviously. But as far as like Christmas, when I was growing up, it was like, oh, well, this is like Jesus Christ's birthday and blah, blah, blah. That's why we're celebrating it. And I've taken the narrative, I guess, more in the last few years of like, we focus a little bit more on the solstice. So like December 21st is like kind of the holy special day, and that this is the darkness and we're going to start moving towards the light and da 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 da. And to just kind of recognize that area, and then of course on the 25th is the present fiasco. But no, that's a beautiful reframe of just like what actually serves you and your family, what represents health and like rest and the longevity for the next year that you need. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to frame it. I love that. I love that. And yeah, like just knowing that we are part of it and we need to be part of the unfolding. If you ever like slowed down enough in the present moment and then have like witnessed the synchronicities happen in real time, and it's like you can literally watch the unfolding happen atom by atom, and it's like, wow, we are actually co-creating here. We are in this like really interesting energy of I'm pushing and it's also coming with me. There's a force along with me and redirecting
Yeah.
and guiding, where you need to go.
And I feel like those energies are, I don't think it's personal to me. I feel like they're much more available to witness to the degree that you slow down and take a moment to notice what's happening. It's for me that process of who I'm being internally is much more rapidly reflected back to me externally in the events of my life. So, and I will say too that this practice, I've, been on the seeking path and teaching energy arts for like over 3 decades now. And this practice, this sweet, playful, in the beginning, just kind of this fun, magical thing for my family and I to do during the solstice time, more than any other practice, has really shifted the way that I walk through my daily life, more aware of that co-creative conversation that we are always engaged in with our thoughts and our emotions and our state of being, whether we're aware of it or not, right? We're either, again, like sleepwalking through this partner dance and getting drug around, most likely by our screens,
Right?
or, or we're more aware of the truth that every single thought, every single emotion that we have, is actually quite literally being reflected back to us in the form of the events of our life. So it's a conversation, and my qigong teacher used to say, "Choose or be chosen," is a way
Right.
to just kind of wrap it up succinctly.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
love that. Yeah, and someone who that reminds me of another quote, but they had basically said same thing, but um, what was it? Oh, not making a decision is still making a decision.
right, by
And
default,
so it's like,
yeah.
oh, okay, you can't just sit back and be like, I'm just not going to decide because that's still a decision, you know?
Right.
Um,
And then there's that it's always like these greater truths are always such a paradox. So it's like we have to play our part and be active participants
let
and
go.
also be in a place of
Right.
surrender
Let
at
go
the
and
same
don't guide
time.
it at all. But move
Which
forward
is
knowing what you're doing.
God, it just feels like you're saying the exact opposite of what you just said, but somehow
But
it's
still, they're
true.
both true, right? They're both true, and I
They're
think
both true.
that's what I love
Yeah.
about like Eastern philosophy and stuff. Is like they can hold so many truths at once in what seems to be completely contradictory, But
Right.
if you understand it, you understand, Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, we've got a few more minutes to chat, but I want to know a little bit more about like the kind of the melding of the tremors and the neurogenic, there
Neurogenic.
we go, side with
Yes.
the um, qigong. I always say that wrong.
Qigong, yeah. So Qigong literally means Qi means universal life force energy, and then Gong means a good work or practice. So you have the good work or practice of cultivating universal life force
Okay.
energy. And a lot of people, when you say that you practice Qigong, they look at you blankly and say, "What's that?" And so if you think of Tai Chi, most people are
I've
familiar
done
with
that
Tai
like
Chi.
one
This
time or a couple times maybe, yeah, with somebody.
the martial art where they do very slow,
Yeah.
deliberate
And that
actions,
is really
moving with
cool
the
and
breath.
powerful. That's like, even though if
It,
watching it, you're like, these people are crazy. But like when you actually do it, you can feel it and you're like, oh, I get it, you know? I get it.
yeah. So I had been already teaching yoga for, I think, 6 or 7 years when I discovered Qigong, and I had that experience of immediately, tangibly feeling the energy, which was just mind blowing to me. And I instantly did a 180 and it became my primary practice and I never looked back. And my hamstrings are a little tighter, but my awareness of energy and my energy body and everything else is a whole lot more empowered and
Good.
vibrant and healthy. Um, so Tai Chi is a martial art that is under the greater umbrella of what is
Okay.
Qigong, the cultivation of universal life force energy. And the practices that I teach and engage in are not a martial art in nature. They're more for the overall cultivation of health and well-being, whether that's physical, emotional, or
Hmm.
spiritual. So that's the Qigong piece. And then the neurogenic piece is the tension and trauma releasing tremor work. And I studied with an organization called TRE in Northern California. And essentially, if you think of the way that an animal shakes when it's overstimulated or scared, or if you think of a gazelle that might shake after getting chased by a lion, when it finally recognizes that it's not going to be breakfast, lunch, or
Hmm.
dinner, it will wander off to the side of the herd and tremble and shake. And then when that process is complete, it will come back to the herd and graze as if nothing had happened. Happy, healthy gazelle, no PTSD. So turns out that all mammals have this innate mechanism in our nervous systems, and humans are
Hmm.
mammals. So we also have this ability, and it's actually a very beneficial tremor that releases trapped tension from an overstimulating, aka traumatic event. So anything that overwhelms the nervous system. And that can look like trauma with a big T, and it can look like trauma with a little t. Maybe, your morning stress of getting 4 kids to wherever they need to go and you to your work or whatever it is, so we all have trapped tension in our bodies and nervous systems. And this is a beautiful tool that is in the physiology of the body that releases and unwinds and unravels that stagnation, trapped energy, trapped
Yeah,
tension.
that's amazing
Yeah.
because like we 100%. I feel like I've done that naturally like my whole life, whether that be ADHD or whatever. But like anytime something was like a little bit too much, I'm always like, ah, like shake it off. And it's like when then
Yeah.
you see these studies that come out where it's like, oh, this is like these things are actually kind of true. They hold in nature. I'm like, thank goodness I'm not just crazy. Like that's great.
Yeah. You're definitely not crazy. You're intuitively intelligent.
Right.
You knew exactly what to do. And every, like, all of the ancient cultures had forms of shaking, whether it was more voluntary shaking, like when you're
Like
overstimulated,
yeah,
this is
just like
voluntary muscle
movement.
movement, right? You're
Mm.
but the neurogenic tremor is actually an involuntary
Oh,
tremor.
okay, like
So we lie down on the yoga mat and we hold the body in a few awkward positions, and the inner thighs start
yes,
to
yes, yes.
tremble. And it's an involuntary tremor, which initially is quite surprising. So many people think that they're going to be the one person whose body doesn't tremor.
I
I
was gonna
have
say
yet
my
to see
body
it.
still will tremor in those things, in certain positions and stuff. And I remember in my yoga teacher training, my knees they like hyperextend, and so I didn't really
Okay.
understand that until I was literally in these trainings, and they're like, your knees like going like this. You need to actually like hold it, in the space it's supposed to be at. So those muscles were not trained to hold them, because I had been just falling back into my joint my entire life, all those 20 years up until I went to this training. And so there was a lot of trembling, and there was a lot of tremors and stuff happening in the backs of my legs and my thighs and things. And I was like, what is that? Why can't I stop that? And my teacher just kept going like, it's trauma, it's trauma and it's shaking out and whatever, but like, don't fight it. Whatever it is, don't fight it. But we didn't really go back much into it from there. I was just like, okay, I've got a lot of trauma to work out. But and it also reminded me, just you talking about it, reminded me of having my kids. I have a stepdaughter, but I've had my other three, that I had naturally. And like you had said, like after they were out, after they were safe and all, we had the like moments and times, and the nurses are like, okay, now it's time to get you in the shower and get you cleaned up and whatever. That's the first thing I remember is like going to stand up and just shaking. My legs just complete shaking uncontrollably. And I'm like, is there something wrong with me? And they're like, no, you're fine. It's just going to happen.
You just had a baby.
It's just going to happen for a second,
So remember I used the words overstimulating event. That can look like a positive event that is overstimulating for your nervous system. Think about your wedding day or a graduation day where there's just an overwhelming amount of information coming at the nervous system, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that we perceive as negative, right? So like giving birth, right? That's just a huge event for the nervous system. It could be negative, but it could also be beautiful and positive, and you might still have this trembling, this release of energy and tension that happens after the baby is born. A lot of women come to me and say, "Oh, I experienced this, after childbirth."
Yeah. So, well, very interesting. I love that. So, do you do group classes, or how do you work with people?
Yeah, I primarily work with individuals, and I'm offering now a year-long mentorship program where we have a 2-hour one-on-one once a month, and then a half-an-hour follow-up, as well as access to all of my courses and other things. And so that's available. And then I also will occasionally do workshops. The workshops look a little different than working with individuals, obviously. In a workshop setting, I would I can't tune into the individual energy bodies of everybody in the class, and like I would with a client, where we work with the constitutional elements and the 5 elements of classical Chinese medicine, and the meridian lines and the point system and foreign energy and all kinds of things. But in a workshop setting, we do a qigong practice, and then we'll either it's a 5-element practice or a 3 dantian practice, but we'll work with some part of the energy body and then lie down and move into the tremor. And then once we're comfortable in the tremor, then we'll come back and focus on the energy cauldrons and or specific organs that we focused on in our standing practice, and allow space for those cauldrons or organs or whatever it is to release any trapped tension through the physical tremor. And so that's what a workshop would look like. And then it's just much more individualized with individuals when I'm working one-on-one, and we dive into missing soul parts and all kinds of just much more personal stuff, and work through
Work through all
the many tools that I've gathered over the last 30 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing work. So, if anyone wants to find you, how can they find you?
So my website is just my name. It's LARAJDAY, and so www.larajday.com, and all the information is there. You can find the Oracle deck there. This is what it looks like.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. And then how many cards are in the deck?
So there's 52 cards in the guidebook. The practice is in the guidebook, and these are the themes that go along with each card, and each card has an explanation of what that guide represents, and then also a ritual practice or a meditation with each of the 52 cards. And the cards themselves
those are gorgeous.
This is back, and
I love those so much.
All Yeah, I think this is my favorite card in
The
the whole deck, the
bumblebee.
bumblebee.
That's beautiful.
The artwork. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
There. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh, I need to put my hands on
So,
that. That's beautiful.
yeah. And that's available through my publishers at beyondword.com or Amazon or Simon and Schuster or Barnes and Noble or Books a Million or books.org. It's in all the usual
Awesome.
places.
Well, I'll
So,
put some
yeah.
links here for everyone to find you. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I loved learning all about the process and how to make that like into your everyday life on a large scale, on a doable scale. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Kelsey. It was really
Yeah,
a
thank
delight.
you. Thank you, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Wasn't that so fun? I really love her energy. I love her view, and I love just the way that she does her things. um, she's doing it right. She's doing something right, that's for sure. So I will link those 13 Night Oracle cards in the show notes here. I've looked at them. They look so beautiful, and I definitely want to get mine before December comes. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Otherwise, new on my website for you guys, I've got a whole meditation library. So essentially, there are meditation audios there for you to purchase. There are some that are just $4.99. The Yog Nidra one in there is $14.99. And then there's a 5 audio bundle for, I believe, $20.99 or something along those lines. So, and that's got 5 of the different audios. It has 4 meditation audios and 1 Yog Nidra audio. You get the whole bundle for $20. So, if you've been looking for something extra to throw into your meditation or want to start playing with mantras, most of these are all mantra based. They are not music, and they aren't even necessarily guided meditations. Guided meditation, someone talks you into your spot and speaks to you throughout the whole thing. This is not that. This is more of you sit, you close your eyes, you breathe, you turn this on, and when the chanting is over, then your meditation is over, essentially. If you're looking at it more as a timer. Um, and also it can help you learn these mantras because they get repeated to you over and over. And these mantras are so powerful, my friends. So fucking powerful. So I learned all of these mantras from my own teacher in India. He was a lifelong learner as well, a Brahmin, if you will, a spiritual master. And we would do these chants almost every day, I would say, in the evening. Um, and so they really got ingrained into us. And I never knew how powerful that would be throughout the rest of my life. This is over a decade later, and I still return to these same mantras all the time. And so, mantras are extremely powerful, especially when spoken in Sanskrit, because it's one of the oldest languages around. And so, if we look at the world around us, knowing that everything is a vibration and everything is in motion, even if it does not seem to be, um, that these vibrations, have these same patterns, the repetition, the audible sound, that comes out of your mouth when you say these words is the same vibration that has been spoken thousands and thousands and millions of times throughout humanity and called upon during all this time. And there is so much power that gets inlaid every time somebody chants. And so with chanting, it becomes more and more powerful the more you do it, because you're getting more in tune and you're adding your own frequency to that chant while you do it. And so um, just to give you a little taste, of the chants that are available there. And also all the audios chant those mantras 108 times. So there is a rhyme and reason to it. There is a kind of timeline there. Um, but there is the Om mantra, and that one is very basic. We've talked about this on the podcast lots of times. Om is the universal sound. So you can use Om really whenever, wherever, for whatever reason, and it will always be helpful to align your energy. Another one that I have on there is the Ganesh mantra. We've talked about Ganesh a little bit. He's the remover of obstacles. And that one can help if you feel like you have maybe some problems or some obstacles in your life that you want a little bit of external help with. We can call upon the energy of Lord Ganesha to come in and come through our own being and embody that to get us through whatever hardship we might find ourselves in. The other one that we have on there is Om Namah Shivaya. This one is I bow to my highest self. This is extremely powerful especially when we feel like we might have become misaligned or a little off the path. This one is really great to bring that honor and that love and that devotion back to our practice, back to our life, back to the way that we want to be. The Yog Nidra session on there is amazing and very powerful as well. That is one of the longer ones, and that is more of like a lying down meditation. We've talked about Yog Nidra before, but Yog Nidra, that one is about 40 minutes. And again, you find a comfortable spot, you lay down, you press play, and you listen. And it will take you on a little transformational journey in your own living room. So, there's a couple more on there, but yeah, just go over to my website, holistichathyoga.com, and then you can click meditations up there in the little tabs, and you'll find all of those there. So I hope you have a wonderful week, my friends. And yes, happy summer. We are officially in the swing of it. If you're in the southern hemisphere, happy winter. You're in the swing of it. And again, if you're in the southern hemisphere and it's winter, this might be your perfect time to do the 13-night sacred oracle cards. So check those out, friends. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day, great week, and I'll see you next week, friends. Bye.